Hello, I'm Marcio Gonçalves, and today I'm going to present three experiments we conducted to validate a dietary approach to determine the tryptophan to lysine ratio for pigs. There's a wide variability of the tryptophan to lysine requirement, and one of the causes of this is that lysine may not be limiting in all experiments. Lysine requirement of pigs depends on the rate of lean and fat deposition, environment, health status, as well as feed intake. Because the lysine requirement as a percentage of the diet decreases with increasing body weight, if the diet is not limiting lysine at the final body weight of the experiment, the ratio of other amino acids to lysine will be underestimated. Therefore, lysine must be the second limiting amino acid throughout the entire experiment. The objective of these three studies was to validate a dietary approach to determine the optimal standardized ileodigestible tryptophan to lysine ratio for pigs. The three experiments were 21 days long and were conducted with one group of finishing pigs at a commercial research barn in southwestern Minnesota. There were 21 days common period between studies, and pigs were fed diet with 20% SID tryptophan to lysine ratio during this common period. We used 1232, 1204, and 1183 gilts with an initial body weight of 22.8, 57.7, and 87.4 kilograms in experiments 1, 2, and 3 respectively. Each treatment had 11 replicated pens with 24 to 28 pigs per pen, and each pen contained one self-feeder and 1 cup water. Pigs had ellipton access to feed and water, and all experiment diets were fed in meal form. Prior to diet formulation, 5 representative samples of corn, soybean meal, and DDS were collected across 5 weeks and analyzed for total amino acids at Ajinomoto heartland. Other nutrients and SID amino acid digestibility coefficient values used for diet formulation were obtained from NRC 2012. Other amino acid lysine ratio were derived from NRC 2012, and diets were formulated to meet or exceed pigs' requirement. The dietary treatments were high crude protein, high lysine, and high tryptophan to lysine ratio. The second treatment was a low crude protein, high lysine, and high tryptophan to lysine ratio. The third treatment was a low crude protein, low lysine, and high tryptophan to lysine ratio. And lastly, the fourth treatment was a low crude protein, low lysine, and low tryptophan to lysine ratio. The lysine requirement for gilts were estimated using the NRC 2012 model. So again, lysine requirement as a percentage of the diet decreased with increasing body weight. Some experiments in the literature fed diets deficient lysine considering the requirement at the average body weight of the experiment. However, in this experiment, our low lysine diets were set to be 0.05 percentage point below the lysine requirement considering the final body weight. Our high lysine diets were set at 0.01 percentage point above the requirement considering the initial body weight of the experiment. Regarding the statistical analysis, data were analyzed as a randomized complete block design using the mixed procedure of SAS. Pen was the experimental unit for all data analysis. Body weight block was considered a random effect, and pairwise comparisons of means were performed using the diffs option from the LS mean statement of SAS. For experiment 2 and 3, dietary treatment from the previous experiment 1 and 2 respectively was considered a random effect. Results were considered significant at p less or equal to 0.05. Here you can see the diet composition of experiment 1, where we used 23 to 37 kilograms pigs. So diets were corn and soybean meal based with 30% inclusion of DDGS. We used different levels of choice white grease to achieve the same net energy across all treatments. To formulate the diets with lower crude protein, we increased the inclusion of synthetic lysine. On the diets with low crude protein but high tryptophan to lysine, we included synthetic tryptophan. This diet formulation approach was the same across all experiments. Here you can see the calculated analysis for experiment 1, where our high lysine treatments were set at 1.09% SID lysine, and our low lysine treatments were set at 0.92% SID lysine. The diets with high tryptophan to lysine ratio had 20% tryptophan to lysine, and the diets with low tryptophan to lysine ratio had 14.5% tryptophan to lysine. Again, net energy was the same across all treatments. In our high crude protein treatments, the crude protein level was 23.2%, and in our low crude protein treatments, the crude protein level was reduced at least 3 percentage points. Here you can see the calculated analysis for experiment 2, where we used 58 to 74 kilograms pigs. In our high lysine treatments, the lysine was set at 0.92% SID lysine, and in our low lysine treatments, the lysine was set at 0.80% SID lysine. Our high crude protein diet was set at 20.7%. In our low crude protein diets, the crude protein level was reduced at least 3.1 percentage points. And lastly, we can see here the calculated analysis for experiment 3, where we used 87 to 108 kilograms pigs. Our high lysine treatments were set at 0.79%, and our low lysine treatments were set at 0.65% SID lysine. Our high crude protein diets were set at 18.9%, and our low crude protein diets were set at least 2.9 percentage points below the crude protein level of the high crude protein diet. Diet samples were collected and submitted to chemical analysis, and the result were within the normal analytical variation. Before I get into the growth performance, I'd like to take the time to set up my graphs. On the horizontal axis, we can see the different dietary treatments, and on the vertical axis, we can see the response variable. On the next slides, we'll be looking to the effects of reducing crude protein, which will compare the diet with high crude protein, high lysine, and high tryptophan to lysine versus the diet with low crude protein, high lysine, and high tryptophan to lysine ratio. The second effect we'll be looking at will be the reduction in lysine, which will compare the diet with low crude protein, high lysine, and high tryptophan to lysine ratio with the diet with low crude protein, low lysine, and high tryptophan to lysine ratio. Lastly, we'll be looking to the effect of reducing tryptophan to lysine ratio, and that will compare the diet with low crude protein, low lysine, and high tryptophan to lysine ratio versus the diet with low crude protein, low lysine, and low tryptophan to lysine ratio. Here we can see the average daily gain of experiment 1, and again we used 23 to 37 kilograms pigs. A reduction in crude protein did not affect average daily gain, and a reduction in lysine reduced average daily gain. Reducing the tryptophan to lysine ratio reduced average daily gain. Moving on to gained feed, reduction in crude protein reduced gained feed, and a reduction in lysine also reduced gained feed as expected. Reducing tryptophan to lysine ratio reduced gained feed in this experiment as well. Here you can see the average daily gain in experiment 3, where here we used 58 to 74 kilograms pigs. Reducing crude protein did not reduce average daily gain, and reducing lysine reduced average daily gain only numerically but not statistically. Reducing the tryptophan to lysine ratio reduced average daily gain similarly to experiment 1. Regarding gained feed, reducing crude protein did not reduce gained feed, and reducing lysine similarly to average daily gain, only reduced gained feed numerically, but not statistically. Reducing the tryptophan to lysine ratio reduced gained feed in this experiment as well. Moving on to the results of experiment 3, reducing crude protein did not affect average daily gain, and reducing lysine also didn't affect average daily gain. Reducing tryptophan to lysine ratio reduced average daily gain. Moving on to gained feed here in experiment 3, reducing crude protein reduced gained feed, and reducing lysine reduced gained feed only numerically but not statistically. Reducing the tryptophan to lysine ratio reduced gained feed, similarly to experiment 1 and 2. So in conclusion, lowering the crude protein did not influence average daily gain in any of the experiments. Lowering crude protein did not influence gained feed in 58 to 74 kilograms pigs. However, gained feed was increased in 23 to 38 kilograms pigs and 87 to 108 kilograms pigs fed high crude protein diets. Decreasing lysine reduced average daily gain and gained feed in 23 to 38 kilograms pigs. Decreasing lysine did not reduce average daily gain and gained feed in 58 to 74 and 87 to 108 kilograms pigs. Decreasing tryptophan to lysine ratio decreased average daily gain and gained feed in all experiments. Therefore, low crude protein diet formulated 0.05 percentage point below the SID lysine requirement at the end of the dietary phase appears to be valid to ensure pigs are below their lysine requirement to test the tryptophan to lysine ratio for 23 to 37 kilograms pigs. However, for pigs heavier than 37 kilograms, lowering the SID lysine levels more than 0.05 percentage point below the requirement at the end of the phase would be advisable to ensure diets are below pig's requirement. This data will be used for determination of the effects of SID tryptophan to lysine ratio on the growth performance of finishing pigs. I'd like to express my appreciation for New Horizon Farms for helping conducting these studies and for Ginomoto Heartland for funding this series of studies.